Well, we can probably go ahead and get started. Some of these intro slides are just like, hello, welcome anyway. So if someone comes a couple minutes late, they won't have missed anything yet. So this particular training that we have here today for you guys is about video content creation. So we'll kind of be looking at how we at HLM use health literacy and design best practices to create video content and how you guys can do those same things as well. My name is Kendra. I know I've presented one other time here on social media, but I am the Director of Digital Media and Strategy here at HLM. So I have my hand in almost all things digital, whether that be video creation or infographics, graphic design. All of that stuff is kind of within my wheelhouse. And I am joined by Jeremy here today, who I'll let introduce himself.
Hi, yeah, my name's Jeremy Day. I have a background in film production and screenwriting. So creating this type of content is my passion. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to be able to share some of my knowledge with you all.
Yes, and Jeremy is very humble. I think he has been on the team for maybe a year. Has it been a year? About a year,
About
yeah.
a year.
Yeah. And has been just super instrumental in leveling up our video content from the script writing perspective, heavily, but also in some other video ways as well, in terms of filming and audio and stuff like that. So I think that it made sense to have Jeremy tap in and help with this training today. All right. So before we begin, the basics you guys already know. So ways to participate: turn on your camera, use the chat, unmute yourself to ask questions at any point. All of that is welcome here at HLM. And then after the workshop, at the very end, we'll drop a link in the comments for the post survey. And then you'll get a after workshop summary with some kind of key points to take away as well. Okay, so I'll start with a little bit of an intro, just kind of about health literacy and video, how we see the connection, how we see that it works. And then we'll talk about some tips for creating meaningful content. I will say the first part of this training will probably go a little bit quicker than the second part. The tips, we have over 15 tips for you guys. We've really wanted to make this an actionable, like, here are things that you guys can do in your work. Whatever that looks like. So there will be a lot of tips. That'll be kind of the biggest section that we have. I'll start us off in that first section. And then Jeremy and I will split that tip section. In terms of kind of tools that we use, we'll be sharing some of the programs and the platforms that we have, and we'll try to kind of include some that maybe are on the higher end, but also some that are way more affordable, may even be free. And then lastly, we'll just circle back with questions. Of course, like I said, you can ask questions at any point throughout, but we will have dedicated time for that at the end. All right.
Oh, I think I skipped one, but okay.
That's okay. I think it was just like the tell you what section. We're in the first section about health literacy and video. So when it comes to digital content, that I love that. I love visuals. I love getting to use digital content to help people. And I think in a lot of ways, health communication was primarily about text and written content. And even verbal communication, and not as much about visual communication. Now the field has expanded so much. There is so much evidence about visual communication and what really gets people going and what works in terms of helping them recall and remember information. Studies show that materials with meaningful visuals, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like, and interactivity provide additional context for the reader or the viewer, making the concepts easier to understand. So you're able to kind of portray a larger picture with visuals, no pun intended actually, than you are when you just include text alone. We know that the visuals that health communication materials that have visuals are more engaging and can create space for interactivity, and they're preferred over materials and messages with just words alone. I know we've talked a little bit about that in social media and design training, so that shouldn't be new, but we kind of wanted to start in that space and highlight that to begin with. When it comes to video, video takes health communication, these meaningful visuals, these graphics, it takes it to the next level. Digital storytelling with video is especially unique because video, more so than other methods alone, uses the educational benefits of text, audio, and visuals. So you're really getting people in 3 different places. It's this multi-method, multimodal approach that really helps information sink in. It appeals to different types of learners, right? Because you have some people who want to see the visual, some people who need the audio. And then it also makes content accessible for a diverse range of people, including people with visual impairment. So even if you cannot see, for example, it's the voiceover that will carry you through the rest of the video. We know also that video helps close the health literacy gap. So obviously that is of the utmost importance to us here at HLM. Evidence shows that video with spoken text, which is essentially what we call voiceover, can improve information processing. Like I said, it's a multimodal method of communication. It increases knowledge and adherence more than written information or even illustrations alone. So we talk a lot about in our design trainings about using graphics because that really kind of connects things for people, but video takes that to a next level. So any evidence that we have about illustrations and graphics being super helpful, when we start incorporating video into that multimodal method, that's where things get even higher, which closes the health literacy gap. And it eliminates the difference in recall between those with low health literacy and those with high health literacy. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about that health literacy gap. Because of all of the things that video can do, it really closes that gap and brings people together. Effective video, we will say though, isn't just video. So we talk a lot about plain language. We've talked about design and some of our other trainings over the course of since we've been giving them. And we know that video is most effective when paired with meaningful visuals and plain language. So just because you put something into video form, it doesn't automatically make it easy for people to understand, right? We still need to make sure that the visuals that we're using are meaningful and that they are relevant and make sense. And also that the text and the voiceover is in plain language. So making sure that we're avoiding the use of jargon, all of those tips and things that you guys have learned, incorporate those into your video to make the video more effective. We start with a story when we create video, but then we bring in the elements of plain language. We bring in clear design and intentional animation in the video production process. All of those things help us bring this story, this information to life in a way that resonates with people and is easy to understand. And that's really the key. There are several types of video content. We've kind of pulled the 4 here that we tend to use most often. So we have kinetic objects, which is really when you think about text boxes or objects that kind of enter and leave at different points, or maybe that spin. That's what we're talking about when we talk about kinetic objects. So things that are just moving across the screen. One of the examples that we have here is a Health Insurance Now video series that we did. There is a lot of other content, other type of video content in this video, but what I like about this screenshot that we chose is just that it has the text, it has an alarm clock. In the video, it's actually ringing, and that information, that text kind of goes and comes across the screen. So that's what we mean by kinetic objects. The next type is animated. So this is probably one of our most popular versions or types of video. It includes characters and props that have actions and movement that is native to them. So you'll see characters waving. In the example that we'll pull up, we have characters who are kind of sitting and talking, having a conversation with one another. In this video in particular, we kind of zoom in at different points to really see their facial expressions and their hand movements and their gestures. Animated really kind of brings things to life in a way that isn't quite real people, but it gives you that human effect. The third one is live action. Excuse me. And that is what we call, it sounds sometimes a little bit more official than it is, but live action essentially is like interviewing or talking to real people that we are filming on camera, which is some of what Jeremy will talk about later on when we talk about the tips. But so in the example that we have here, we had gone to another like kind of city or county area in Missouri and talked with people who work with water and clean, in terms of like clean drinking water, making sure that the agriculture and the farming are using the water well and that people are using the water well so it doesn't negatively impact that agriculture life in Missouri. So this was, we interviewed a bunch of people, we filmed them at a couple of different angles, and then we pieced all of this together and put a video together that then they could use to talk about and promote clean drinking water. And then this last one is hybrid animation. We've been doing a lot more of this at HLM. Essentially, we're combining kind of the animated components of video with also the live action components of video. And so one of the things that we've done with some CHWs or community health workers in Florida and even surrounding areas is we've kind of gotten to piece together these animated characters and scenes where, you know, they're talking, they're giving information, but then we kind of turn it over to the CHWs and they're giving their own experience as well. And so you can see on this particular screenshot, this slide, we've kind of pieced two of those things together, even made a little character that was similar to the person who was speaking, just to kind of give it the extra little personal touch. All right, so what makes a great video? When it comes to health communication specifically, we're thinking about information. So factual information such as statistics, facts, all of that stuff. I think the key thing is making sure that that information is accurate. So a lot of times in the videos that we do while we're experts in health literacy and while we have some folks on our team who have expertise in specific disease areas or health and wellness areas. When we work with clients, we make sure that the information is accurate. So we'll turn it back over to them and say, hey, like, this is what we wrote. This is how we pieced it together. But does this make sense? Is it right? Is this really how it works in the real world? The second piece, which I think we've gotten significantly better at with adding Jeremy to our team, is including a narrative in our videos. So it's not just that factual information, but it's creating that relatable, familiar human story that people can get invested in and that makes sense to people, that really allows them to relate it to their own lives. And the last piece is engagement. So making sure the content is captivating, easy to follow, and easy to understand, which of course, when we bring in plain language, when we bring in clear design, all of those things kind of increase the engagement and make it easier to understand. Why do narratives matter? So the great thing about narratives specifically is that they kind of combine that factual information with that human interest, which is why these videos are so effective. It also makes complex information easy to understand because you're breaking it down and putting it in a way that feels more relatable to people. It allows you to educate, promote awareness, and motivate behavior change without someone just sitting through a lecture of a video where someone is talking at them. It allows people, particularly those in non-mainstream groups, to share their own experiences in a way that makes sense for them. It allows them to be empowered to tell their own stories when otherwise their voices may be unheard. And it allows the viewers to kind of tap into what culturally appropriate ways of communication looks like. And then that is kind of the intro. Like I said, Jeremy and I will kind of split up this next section. Again, please feel free to throw out questions or comments as we go. Jeremy will start us off for this next section. I'll tag in and then we'll just let Jeremy take it home.
Yeah. All right. So to begin with, we're going to start with messaging, which is really just, you know, that's what you're doing here. That's what the video is all about. It is about communicating the message that you have to the viewer in the best way that you can. And so, yeah, we've got to develop a clear, simple message, much like we talk about with other media, with plain language, health literacy. Make it clear and simple. So go ahead and outline what your message is, write out what you'll be saying. And with video, since you're going to be recording yourself, it is a really good idea to practice and rehearse what the video is going to be, what you're going to say. I really bring that up because sometimes the way that we write is not the same way that it's going to sound to the ear. So even if you're writing it out, you still want to make that extra step and speak it out loud to make sure that, you know, it's not clunky or just doesn't sound right to the ear, such as like maybe you're repeating words because, I mean, you just don't see it on the page sometimes. So then you want to consider what the best way to share that message is. And yeah, that's, you know, just asking yourself, how is the video going to be shared? Is this going to be on YouTube, on a web page, Facebook? If it's going to be on TikTok, though, it's also going to kind of limit the types of video that you may be able to share. With like TikTok, they're much more about shorter videos and ideally recording yourself just right there in the app. So you may need to make it live action versus like animated or kinetic type of video. But then also ask yourself what you want to be on the screen. So that comes up to planning. Are you going to have graphics to the side, such as like me right now? If we were to go back and edit this with my screen, I've got enough space right here that we could actually put some text. Not that we're going to be doing that, I don't think. And then also ask yourself what resources you have. So what can you do? If you've got access to some sort of animation software, then maybe animation is a better option. It is very easy to go back and update animation if you notice something that is wrong or information changes. Moving along, let's get back to plain language. Remember the tips that we've given you in previous trainings. You want to limit it to a few main points and avoid complicated words and jargon. And again, write the way that you speak and you know, practice what you're saying.
So I'm going to jump back in here a little bit to talk about design because I love it so much. So over the next couple of slides, we'll get into just some design tips and how we've used them at HLM in our video work. So we want to make sure that we're using formatting to make any text that's there easy to read. So when it comes to text, you want to make sure that there's a high enough contrast between the text or the information and the background that's behind it. So sometimes that means just making sure the text is a specific color. Sometimes that means, like in this version, or in this example that we have on screen, I went ahead and just put like a shape behind it just to make sure that that solid color and the white text on top of it made the contrast high enough so that it would be very easy for folks to read. And that happens a lot in terms of when you have, like when you're actually filming someone on screen also. You may notice that instead of just putting the text directly on that frame, that film, whatever is blurred in the background, a lot of times people will put some kind of box or something, some kind of shape behind it, just to make sure the contrast is high enough. And while a lot of times you'll hear us say in our other trainings, you know, make sure to use size 12 text or higher, when it comes to video, especially because sometimes we're looking at those things on a mobile screen, we tend to recommend higher for text size. So I tend to stick around 18 for kind of digital web-based things, and video is like that as well. like Jeremy said previously, you want to make sure that you're leaving space so that if you need to add something to the screen, like closed captions or subtitles, if you're including it in a different language, you can definitely do that. Tip 5 is to use visual content that supports your message. So this is what I was referring to earlier when I talked about those meaningful visuals, that meaningful content. You want to make sure that the content is clear and simple, but also that it's relevant. So for this particular video, which we actually made on Canva, by the way, just a compilation of a couple different slides, we have the video clip shows someone putting on a mask. Which is very relevant because we're talking about within a particular healthcare facility, what their procedures were as you were coming into the office during the times of COVID. So if we had used, something else that was less relevant, the message would not have been as clear and it wouldn't have been as meaningful or relevant. The other thing you want to make sure you do is use up-to-date and high-quality visual content. So the great thing about Canva is Canva has a lot of photos, but they also have video stuff as well. But the great thing about some of the tips that Jeremy will get into later on is that you can also start to kind of film your own video content using phones or whatever resources that you have available. Particularly with phones now, the quality is significantly higher. So you don't have to worry about that as much, but you just want to make sure that you're using stuff that is relevant and timely and up to date. And then, like I said, it's just super important that when you're thinking about how you frame things on the slide and lay things out design-wise, you want to make sure that you're leaving space on the screen, not just for closed captions and subtitles, but also for the play bar. You don't want the play bar to kind of, when it's shown, cover up content. That's super important to someone understanding the message. And then the last design tip that we have here is to use animations thoughtfully. So animations, or when text slides in, it enters and leaves, think about how you want to do that in a way that is meaningful and intentional. So for example, on the slide or on the example that we have here, we included a little checklist on the side. And we have the check mark and the circle that kind of highlights and shows up when the voiceover says each particular item. So that's kind of one way to use animations intentionally. Another way, and we do this sometimes in PowerPoint presentations as well, when we want to isolate specific content. So instead of putting everything up on the screen at once, if we really want to go point by point, we may have some text slide in the animation, and then we'll wait till the voiceover gets to that next piece before we have that additional content scroll in. I think the biggest thing is to just be cautious of having too much movement. So I remember there was a platform, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but Prezi was a thing. It was an alternative to PowerPoint. And a lot of people talked about how they were getting dizzy and disoriented because all of the spinning and all of the things that was happening with Prezi. So I would just recommend that people kind of think about and be conscious and intentional about the way you're having things moving and making sure it makes sense for the content and isn't going to distract or disorient anyone. Animations are really great, but if they distract from the messaging, then you've kind of lost it. And that's it for design. Jeremy, back to you.
Yeah. I was going to, before we move on to some of the actual production, I did want to go to the chat. And on the length of video, that is a very good question. It can depend on the platform that you're going to be putting the video onto. In general, though, you do want to try to keep it short. We're going to actually touch on that a little bit later as well, but depending on what the message is, how much information you have to give really can kind of determine the length. I would say try to keep it maybe to 1 to 2 minutes if it's one simple message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we find a lot, obviously people's attention spans are very short now, so it really is important to captivate people in that first, I think 4 to 8 seconds. A lot of times we'll have clients ask for, 30-second videos and 60-second videos. And those are really great when, like Jeremy said, there's one specific concept or point that we can get across quickly, those are great for social media, particularly as you're able to just 60. Yep. Average news story is 60 to 90 seconds. Exactly. So we try to kind of stay in that area. There are times, particularly with some health content, like Jeremy said, where really it's that 1 to 2 minute time frame that really kind of is what we're able to use to clearly convey all of the information that we need to. But when we're able to break content up into smaller chunks, which is a plain language thing, of course, then we're able to kind of do it shorter, and that's great.
Yeah, and if the script, I would say try to we don't really cover it in this, but with the script, I think, was it about, Cantor, do you remember, is it about 200 words that we've kind of figured for about a minute? So
because the thing to remember also is sometimes when you look at a Word document, like the script looks short and you're like, oh my gosh, like I have all this space, like I can add all of this content. But you have to remember that when the voiceover is laid on top of the video, you want to make sure that you're talking at like a decent pace. And Jeremy will talk a little bit about pacing later, but you don't want to be going way too fast or not taking breaths in between such that it sounds unnatural. So you kind of have to leave some space, some white space in the script just for that general kind of pacing and breathing of the person who's reading the voiceover.
Yeah, and if you're going to have multiple people appearing on the screen, you're going to need to add a little bit of extra space for those breaks between the two of them talking.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, let's go ahead and move on. And if you have more questions about script writing and all of that at the end, I will be happy to answer those. But we're going to talk a little bit about audio right now. So the first one is about just the physical space. Audio can sound drastically different in different places. So you want to find a good location to record in. So choose an area and time that's quiet with little background noise, and area a small area is going to possibly have a lot of echo, same with a large area. So generally the best thing is a medium-sized space. Could be like a bedroom. Actually, a bedroom is a very good space because you might have drapes, furniture that's soft, stuff like that, to cut down on the echo, which is one problem with like different spaces with like hard surfaces such as bathrooms or kitchens possibly. And actually, oh wait, no, yeah, slides are throwing me off. Also be aware of outside noises though. So got wind, traffic, people, animals, all of those things, even if they are outside and they don't sound loud, may still be picked up by a microphone.
Like
you've also
grass mowing is also a big one. I know I've tried to record when someone's cutting the grass outside and I'm like, okay, you can hear that exact same thing. I know I'm also sometimes like in a space that is very close to like a fire department. So there's like a lot of fire trucks like going and coming. That one, of course, sounds loud and is loud. But yeah, I think sometimes like the dull ones, like the grass mowing and the heaters and the fans, like Jeremy mentioned, you don't think about those as much, but they will be picked up.
Yeah, and also family, roommates, pets, and yeah, like Kendra said, AC heaters, lights even can have a little bit of an electric buzz, and even it's ambient, noise, like just that low room noise that can be picked up. And for videos like this, can be noticeable and can cut into being able to hear, you know, can cut into what the viewer will hear. So you always want to be aware of that. But with that also, positioning the mic in the right spot is going to be very important. And we'll talk a little bit about that right here too.
Jeremy, there are a couple comments. Someone asked, you wear headphones on video. And then also someone mentioned, which I've done this before too, going into a closet
yes.
And just putting a blanket over and trying to record audio. I have done that many a time.
Yes. Yeah, closets are great for recording audio. And headphones, if it's the best microphone that you have, use it. It's important to get that good, clean audio. And headphones, while they might look big and bulky, if they give good audio, use it. I mean, we are in the time of Zoom, where we see people with headphones on somewhat regularly. And if it cuts down on background noise that you can't deal with, or you can't work around with time, yeah, use it. But make sure that it is in the right spots. If it's like a mic on a stand, make sure that it is positioned in front of you and not too far away, so that you don't deal with more room noise or echoes, because then you might sound far and distant, which is why you do want to have a separate mic if you can, because a mic on like your phone, while your phone might actually be a good recording device, even for audio, it might need to be closer to you than it can be. So just make sure that you have that positioned correctly and in a secure spot, so you won't hear like rustling or like table bumping. Like I get self-aware, but like if I just tap this, it probably is making some noise. So that's why you want to be aware of that, and yeah, having a good spot. Moving along to lighting. This is a fun one. There are lots of options for lighting now. When I started with film production, we had these big, massive lights, and they were required for some of the older cameras. Now there are all sorts of lighting options, and cameras have gotten better at low lighting. But it is still important and something to be aware of. If you can, natural light on a bright day with a window is great. So if you've got an office that your desk is opposite of, go ahead and use that. It will be nice and even, and provide you with most of everything that you need. Another option is maybe even like, yeah, light on your phone can be pretty helpful to use. Or one that has gotten pretty popular are ring lights. They're easy to control. You can change the strength of them and also kind of control the color, which is, oh, yeah, the next thing that we'll talk about. But I went ahead and did a demo. So this is me in the office. I sit in the corner where I don't have light in front of me normally, and all of the light is from the back. So if I'm using the webcam that I have in there, this is what I look like, and it's not it's just not good at all. So using a ring light, we can really improve that right there. So you can see it's, really just allows features to be seen, and just looks more of what we expect to see with a person. So we do need to set the lights up a little bit if we're going to be using multiple lights, and just want to be aware of what we have. So obviously that shot was just from one side. So there's some ways to get around that. We want to evenly light the space. And in film and photography, there's something called 3-point lighting. So that means that we're lighting in the front, the back, and then also from another side to prevent the hard shadows from being seen like we did in that previous shot. Now, just to show why it's also important to light behind, I went ahead and took a picture later where there was no lighting in the office, and I just lit from the front. That's what happens when you only use one light. And if you're in an office or a room and it's dark and you just have that one light on, if the back isn't really lit, you'll kind of look like you're just bleeding into the back. So just looking into the chat, reflection on eyeglasses, it's not going, you're not going to be able to do too much about it. It's not something I would worry about too much. I mean, if you really feel like it, you could always take off the glasses just for the video, but if not,
the nice thing
yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say the nice thing about ring lights, well, first of all, like Jeremy said, sometimes it's unavoidable. And it's not the end of the world. A lot of people have glasses. We kind of know and expect it. The good thing about ring lights specifically, though, is they create a circular catch light, is what they call it, which tends to either frame or kind of looks a little bit like the eye, if that makes sense. So it's prettier to look at. A lot of times people will do that in like headshot photography or like videography and stuff like that as well, because it is more of like an even circle versus like a bar or a box, whatever that light looks like. However, it's never like the biggest concern when it comes to video.
So
at least for us.
I wouldn't worry about reflection on glasses too much. Unless it's really distracting. But I think most people are aware, especially with ring lights being more popular now. You do see it on a lot of content on like YouTube, where if you pay really close attention, you can just kind of see it. So again, with 3-point lighting, I mentioned I used ring light here, but I did notice it doesn't do everything that I need it to. So one side of my face was pretty dark. So that's, if you notice that, that's where you will need that second weaker light to help fill in that space. So it would just be another light on the other side. And with that, I went ahead and had a small little globe light that was really soft. I think it was from IKEA even. And that helped balance that out. So you can really kind of see here, both sides are lit evenly and I've got light behind me. So I think that this would be an ideal lighting situation.
The other thing about this lighting situation is you'll notice that you don't really see a lot of the lighting in Jeremy's glasses. And that's because the light is more around him than it is in front of him in any way.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you've been to Home Depot or Lowe's or Target or anywhere, you'll notice that there are different lights, and that really does come into play with lighting for video. So lights are measured by something called Kelvin and its temperature. So they can really range from really low, which is warm and can even be into like red, to really high temperatures, which are going to be in blue. And if you mix those lights, it can become very noticeable. So I pulled up the scale just to kind of show the range. You're only ever going to need to worry about the stuff in the middle. So it's going to be warm light to cool light, and then in between. In the most middle one is going to be neutral, and that's probably what's ideal. I like to actually go a little bit warmer, because it kind of creates more of an inviting feeling, and also a lot of what lighting is inside of houses and buildings tends to be warm. Now, my video or my picture that I demoed, this is actually a warm lighting scenario. So you can kind of see that it's a little bit more yellow and just similar to like if you had like a fire. You know, fires are going to burn yellow. With ring light though, I could actually switch it to different colors. So if you happen to have like neutral bulbs in your home, and you need to use a ring light in addition to that, you can probably set it to a neutral color. And just to show, that is with the ring light, which is on my left side, well, my right side that's opposite the wall. You can kind of see in the two pictures that it's not quite as warm color. And that probably is okay. It's not super noticeable. And also the colors in the office are, I think, maybe something a little bit different as well. So it really isn't too bad. However, if you were to use a cool color, then you can really kind of see where on the side with the wall, you can see there's that yellow. And then on the other side, it looks like it's almost icy and cold. So that's really what you want to avoid. I also made a note. Some cameras, iPhones for one, can actually balance out and neutralize if the colors are really warm or really cold. And that's great. But if you do happen to have like mixed lights, it's actually going to throw that off, and that's not going to work. So if you can, do try to keep your colors even. On to filming. So our next tip is going to be what we talked about earlier. You want to be relaxed and natural. So don't rush yourself. I know we talked a lot about time and trying to make sure that we are, not going too long, but you also don't want to be so fast that your viewers are not able to understand what you're saying. So if you can, try to just talk like you are talking to another person. If you need, I think having someone behind the camera, just so that you can talk to them, or actually have that experience for yourself if it'll help make you more comfortable. That is a great option. And also make sure that your tone matches your message. So if it's something hopeful and optimistic, try to get that in your voice. Or if it's maybe make it a little bit more upbeat. But if it's something that's much more serious and concerned, that might not be the right tone for that. So it is a lot like public speaking. Uh, and the next tip, getting back to very basics, try to keep the camera at eye level. I've got a picture here of Seth Meyers that I think demonstrates the angle that we don't want. No one looks good when it's from the chin. So definitely try to keep the camera as much as you can at eye level and stable. Most cameras can clip onto a monitor if they're external camera. If it's on a laptop or if it's on a phone, try to either lower yourself so that you're eye level with it, or try to prop it up on books or something like that so that it's eye level with you. And also be aware of what's around you. We do have Zoom backgrounds that can be used, but I do find that those can actually get a little bit distracting as well. Just with some of the blurring effects, it can kind of mess with how we look, even if it is just on the edge. If you can, just try to use whatever is around you. We're all used to what offices look like and living spaces, and that's fine. But do try to not have anything that's going to distract from your message, and make sure that you have a nice, clean or tidy space, and be aware that if you've got doors, make sure that you don't have pets or children or other household members wandering through. I believe that there were a couple interviews that went out on cable news where children were walking by or walking in, and it kind of really just distract from the message. So moving on to editing, we've got some tips on software. We've got, there is editing software that you can use to trim and edit and add visuals to your video. That way it will be more health literate, such as easy to easy to read text that reinforces the message, and also can help cut down on any time from before or after or even in between. So your message is much more direct and straightforward. So yeah, text text can go by too quickly. What I recommend is actually this: review the video. This step of reviewing, watching, and even having someone else watch the video after you've made edits is going to help you catch anything that you got used to. And also make sure.
No, go ahead.
Oh, just make sure that whatever it is that you've put on the screen is at the right speed. So I think I tend to read a little bit slow, so that's very helpful for me. So if I play it back and the text is like disappearing before, I'll need to I'll go back and lengthen the time it's on screen.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was going to say a similar thing. I know, Jeremy, you had mentioned reading out loud when people go through the script. I think that's also really good to read out loud when you have text coming across the screen. Read out loud at a normal pace and see if you get through it, or see if you're trying to like rush and read it before it goes away. That tends to be a pretty good measure. Reading out loud is super helpful in a lot of different ways with videos.
Yeah. This is also a good step to make sure that the video is the same thing that you set out to do. There's a filmmaking saying that I remember from school, and it's that a film is told 3 times: once when it's written, once when it is shot, and then once when it is edited. So when you're writing it, you're creating that message. When you're shooting it, the way that you film it, the way that you speak it, all of that can kind of change it. But then also when you're editing, that's another time when it can change. So it's really important to make sure that what you are setting out to do, or what you set out to do before, is the same thing that you're actually ending up on. So if you notice that something isn't quite clicking, maybe you need to add text, or maybe the way that you recorded something isn't quite right. So that's a good time when you can stop and go back, maybe reshoot, or even rearrange the way that you are providing information if you need to, and make sure that your message is there the way that you want it to be. And the next step is to make edits meaningful. So if you've seen some of the videos on YouTube, some of them are just maybe cut weirdly, or they might insert something without purpose, and that's not health literate, and not really going to help communicate what you're trying to say. So make edits that help support the message. So it might be cutting to an action that you're describing, or an image to illustrate the point, and also adding text if need be. So yeah, we're going to actually now talk about some programs. We mentioned using an editing program or software to help with that, and we've got a couple that we recommend. For a PC, you can use Clipchamp. It is free to use. They do have some options in it that you can pay for, but everything that you need to trim a video and add content is free. For Macs, there's iMovie. They have that on every device, iPhone, iPad, and desktop. And it's very robust and has a lot of capabilities. However, if you don't want to use that, or if you don't like Clipchamp, there's also Canva that is great, especially for just adding content to clips. If you've shot something and it's you don't need to make a lot of trims, but you just want to add some graphics, it's a great tool. So this is actually Clipchamp, and editing, I know, can kind of be a little bit intimidating if you've never seen it, or if you have seen it and it has like all sorts of things all over the place. I wanted to just kind of run through what it looks like and explain that it really isn't that scary. So this is a timeline at the bottom there, and that's just the video. It's really just drag and drop, and you are good to start going with that. So for this, I wanted to also show how easy it is to add text. So for this, we've got, we just want to add some text to the left-hand side. So we can add a white background, and that is going to be dragged and dropped onto the timeline above the above the clip, and it creates a thing that you can drag to the length that you need, and then we can start adding the text, which also gets added onto the timeline. So you can edit that, and we can add even more. And if we need that to come in later, we can actually shorten it to enter it where we want it to on the timeline. I feel like I kind of went through that quickly, but yeah, hopefully that kind of explains what's going on. If not, please feel free to reach out to me. No, we don't have much time, but yeah, I did want to just kind of like at least visually show what those steps are. So do we have, we don't have too much time for questions, but if anyone does have any, oh, yeah. So yeah, Canva is fairly easy, but Clipchamp is simpler. I'm glad to hear that Clipchamp is liked. That one has been a little bit newer. It, I think, replaced Microsoft's video editor that they had. Kelsey?
So on the Clipchamp, you had, were you able to make that video that you had as the base? Did you make that in Clipchamp, or was that made and then brought in?
That was made and brought in. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. That was a video that we had brought in. That was animated. So yeah, that would require other software, but bringing in live action video would be the same way, where you can just upload the file, and then from the content you would just drag it into the timeline.
Is there a software or something that you recommend for those like short animated clips? Like the one that you had dragged in, is there something that you recommend to make those?
That video was made in Beyond. Kendra, do you want to add anything about that?
So that video was created in Beyond. Beyond has, it's a little bit more on the expensive side. We use a nonprofit. We like have a nonprofit version of it, which I would recommend if any of you guys kind of have that nonprofit connection. But so that's what we tend to use for the animations when you see people like actually moving their arms and things like that. When it comes to just kind of like illustrations, Canva can be helpful for that, because Canva now has some illustrations that do animate a bit. It's not quite the same, but it gives you a little bit more movement than you could get with just like a photo or like a visual of an animated character alone.
Okay, thank you.
And for clip arts, I believe that Clipchamp does have some elements that you can use in the software. However, you can always find something online. That's what I would recommend, is probably finding the images or graphics that you would want to be using that might not have licenses or anything like that. And you can upload those into the software.
Yeah, any images that you upload should be compatible with any of the platforms that Jeremy has mentioned.
I'll add my email to the chat.
Yes, and I will also add the post survey link to the chat as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Powtoon is another one. There are a couple animation softwares that are like similar to Vyond. A lot of them may offer you like a free trial or have a free version. But like Maureen said, it tends to kind of, once you do a subscription, you tend to get more capabilities.
For people that don't have video experience, I think Canva is a good beginning, because it gives you elements to use, and then if you get more into it, then you can look into getting a subscription to something that will do that more often for you. But for our beginning folks, and Canva, you can get a free nonprofit account with all of the bells and whistles, so I recommend that for people. Thank you for all the great tips.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
I completely agree with the Canva comment. We also take advantage of the Canva for Work for nonprofits and have access to all of the premium features, obviously at no cost. So I think that for a lot of reasons, Canva is a really good starting point for folks. And not even a starting point, but a continuing point. I am a professional graphic designer and animator, and I use Canva all the time. So cool. All right. Well, we won't keep you guys too much longer, but thank you for interacting with us and hanging out with us this morning. And Jeremy dropped his email in there. You can find either of our emails on the website, but of course you can access it right there as well. And then I've dropped the post survey link, and we'll be in touch with a kind of summary and takeaway as well.
And we will be doing the next workshop on February 22nd, I believe, the last Wednesday, same time as always. And that one will be making health communication accessible. So look forward to that one. And there will be information about that coming out in the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Thank you.